There comes a moment in life where your peace becomes more valuable than your pride, your silence more powerful than any explanation, and your distance more healing than any confrontation. Don't react. Cut them off silently, not out of hatred, but out of self-respect. When people show you who they are through betrayal, disrespect, or manipulation, your response doesn't have to be loud, dramatic, or emotional. True power is quiet. It's walking away with dignity, choosing your well-being over chaos, and refusing to entertain anything that costs your inner calm. Silence is not weakness, it's strategy. It's the mark of someone who no longer begs to be understood, validated, or heard. This is your awakening, the art of choosing yourself without apology. The real glow-up isn't about showing them what they lost, it's about never looking back. Now, I invite you to listen closely as I share with you 7 powerful truths that could shift your entire mindset. Let every word speak to your soul. Number 1. Silence is the highest form of self-control. There is a divine strength in silence that few truly understand, because we live in a world where loudness is mistaken for power, where speaking up, even in anger, is often viewed as a necessary defense of one's worth. But what if the ultimate power isn't in what you say, but in what you choose not to say? Silence is the highest form of self-control, the clearest reflection of inner mastery, and the most effective weapon against chaos. When someone disrespects you, betrays you, lies about you, or tries to provoke you into lowering your standards, the instinctual reaction is often to fight back, to explain, to argue, to seek justice, to prove your side. But in doing so, you hand over your power to the very person who tried to disrupt your peace. The truth is, real power doesn't scream, it doesn't chase, and it doesn't need to be understood by those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Power simply walks away, quietly, gracefully, and with unshakable calm. Silence shows that you are no longer available for emotional manipulation. It reveals that you've risen beyond the need for temporary satisfaction through verbal exchange, and instead, you've chosen long-term peace over momentary validation. It means your maturity has outgrown your ego's need to react. Anyone can yell back, respond with anger, or get pulled into drama. But to pause, breathe, observe, and then choose not to engage, that's power. That's self-respect in action. Because silence is not about suppressing your voice or denying your truth. It's about choosing your battles wisely, knowing when to speak and when to conserve your energy. It's the realization that not everyone deserves a response. Not every insult deserves a counterattack. And not every door that slams shut deserves to be knocked on again. When you become silent in the face of provocation, you take the wind out of their storm, and you communicate something far more powerful than words ever could, that your peace is no longer negotiable. Silence makes people confront themselves in a way that words never can. It forces them to sit with what they've done, or better yet, it removes the attention they so desperately crave. And even more importantly, silence is for you. It's the space where healing begins, where clarity returns, and where emotional detoxification happens. In silence, you hear your own voice again, the one buried under all the noise, all the outside opinions, all the stress and confusion. You get back to your center. And from that grounded place, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You just become stronger, wiser, more focused. Think about it. When you're truly at peace, when you know who you are and what you deserve, what can words add to that? Nothing. So you choose stillness, you choose silence, you choose sovereignty. You allow others to misunderstand you, misjudge you, mislabel you, and still, you don't flinch. Because your peace is worth more than their opinion. Your dignity is worth more than their drama. and your future is worth more than staying entangled in energy that keeps dragging you backwards. Silence then becomes your sanctuary. It becomes the way you exit situations without leaving pieces of yourself behind. It becomes the sword that cuts through illusion, ego, and false attachment. And most beautifully, it becomes the canvas where your transformation paints itself. People may wonder what happened, why you disappeared, why you're not responding anymore, but let them wonder. That's part of the magic. You don't owe explanations to anyone who didn't honor your presence when they had access to you. Your silence speaks volumes. It says, I'm no longer participating in my own pain. I'm no longer explaining my worth. I'm no longer arguing with people committed to misunderstanding me. That is self-control. That is emotional intelligence. That is divine maturity. And once you taste that kind of peace, you'll never exchange it again for the temporary satisfaction of saying one last thing. Once you taste that kind of peace, you'll never exchange it again for the temporary satisfaction of saying one last thing. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, remind yourself, silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is strength under perfect control. It is your soul saying, I've evolved. Don't react. Cut them off silently and watch how the universe rewards your discipline with something far greater than revenge. Inner freedom. Number 2, energy speaks louder than words. There is a universal language more powerful than speech, more undeniable than logic, and more unforgettable than explanation. It's the language of energy, and it speaks louder than words ever will. When you walk away from someone, you don't have to slam doors, write long messages, or make grand announcements. Your energy does the talking, and believe me, it says everything that needs to be said. The moment you pull back your presence, your time, your attention, and your emotional investment, they feel it, not just on the surface, but deep in their spirit, because humans are energy-sensitive beings. And even those who pretend not to care can feel when your energy has shifted. That's why you don't always have to explain yourself. Your vibe does it for you. You can be in a room and say nothing, yet your aura declares whether you're aligned, withdrawn, or fed up. Energy carries your intentions, your pain, your growth, and your boundaries, and people pick up on it, even when they can't consciously explain why something feels different. When you silently withdraw from someone who took your presence for granted, they will feel it in the stillness, in the sudden emptiness, in the echo of your absence. You may have said nothing, but the coldness in the air, the lack of response, the shift in your glow, it all communicates something undeniable. You are no longer available in the same way. That's why energy is never neutral. It's either feeding you or draining you. And the moment you stop offering yours to those who misuse it, they notice. Oh, they notice. They may pretend they don't. They may act unbothered. But inside, your detachment hits them harder than any confrontation ever could. Because words can be debated, denied, dismissed. But energy? You can't fake it. You can't unfeel it. You can't hide from it. That's why someone can tell you they love you, but you can feel the distance in their energy. And that's why someone else can say nothing, yet you feel their care in every subtle gesture. Energy doesn't lie. And once you begin to prioritize how you feel over what people say, your entire life begins to shift. You stop falling for sweet talk and start paying attention to energetic consistency. You stop giving second chances to people who constantly drain your light and begin protecting your aura like it's sacred. Because it is. You begin to notice how some people leave you confused, tired, insecure, while others leave you calm, seen, empowered. That's energy. That's what you begin to trust. And when you take your energy back, from people who were feeding off it without reciprocating, it creates a vacuum in their lives. One they may not be able to describe, but one they will feel. Suddenly, they'll realize it wasn't what you did for them, it was how your presence made them feel. And without it, life feels colder, dimmer, emptier. That's the power you've always had, but maybe you forgot. Maybe you kept giving, speaking, fixing, explaining, hoping they'd see your worth through words. But now, you move differently. You no longer fight to prove anything. You just shift your energy. And that shift speaks volumes. It says, I'm done. It says, I've grown. It says, I deserve more. And those who are truly aligned with your spirit will feel that energy and rise to meet it, while those who aren't will fade away, not because you told them to, but because they no longer match the vibration you're standing in. That's how healing works. That's how evolution works. You don't always have to burn bridges. You simply raise your frequency and watch as everything not meant for you falls away. Your energy begins to attract differently, respond differently, and create differently. And you start to realize that protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's survival. So stop worrying about saying the perfect thing. Stop chasing closure through conversations that only reopen wounds. Stop trying to convince people who already know your value but chose to disrespect it. Just shift your energy, move in silence, and trust that the vibration you now hold is already communicating everything that needs to be said. The ones who truly see you won't need an explanation, and the ones who lost access to your presence, they'll feel the weight of that loss, whether they admit it or not. Because energy never lies, and the absence of yours will say what your words never could. Number 3. Closure is an inside job, not a gift someone else can give you. And the moment you understand this truth is the moment you reclaim your emotional freedom. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that healing requires a final conversation, an apology, an explanation, or some grand moment of clarity handed to us by the very person who hurt us. But waiting for closure from someone who broke you is like waiting for a wound to be healed by the knife that caused it. Real closure doesn't come from their words. It comes from your decision to move forward without them. It's a sacred moment where you no longer need to understand why they did what they did, because you've accepted that peace is more important than answers. And in that moment, you stop chasing clarity from someone who never gave you consistency. You stop needing validation from someone who never truly saw you. And you stop waiting for a moment that may never come. Because sometimes the people who hurt you will never admit they were wrong. Sometimes they'll rewrite history to fit their comfort and leave you with the pieces of a story that never got its proper ending. But here's the truth. You don't need a perfect ending to begin again. You don't need their apology to set yourself free. You don't need to hear, I'm sorry, to forgive. And you don't need their understanding to find your own peace. Closure happens when you choose to no longer give the past the power to define your present. It happens when you stop replaying the betrayal, the abandonment, the lies, the disappointment, and instead start rewriting the narrative from a place of strength. You tell yourself, I didn't deserve that, but I survived it. I may not know why it happened, but I know what I learned, and I'm not staying stuck in a chapter that no longer reflects who I am becoming. That's closure. It's deciding, without their help, to close the door, to seal the wound, and to walk forward, heavier with wisdom, but lighter in spirit. Because the harsh truth is that some people will never give you the closure you think you need because they can't even give themselves the truth about what they did. Their ego won't allow it. Their immaturity can't process it. Their guilt forces them to avoid it, and waiting for them to suddenly grow into the version of themselves you hoped for will only keep you stuck in emotional limbo. But you have a choice. You can choose to create your own closure. You can write your own ending. You can decide that this experience, no matter how painful, was a part of your path, not the end of it. And in doing so, you become your own healer, your own savior, your own source of peace. You stop looking outside for what can only be found within. You cry the tears, you feel the hurt, you scream if you need to, but then you breathe. You center yourself. You look in the mirror and say, I deserve better, and I give myself permission to move on. That's the moment you shift. That's when the chains break. Because closure is not about forgetting what happened. It's about refusing to let what happened control you any longer. It's about choosing to live, to love, to grow, even in the absence of fairness, justice, or resolution. Some endings won't make sense, and some people will never change. But your life does not have to wait for them to evolve before you move forward. You get to close the chapter, even if they never read the book. You get to heal on your own terms, in your own time, through your own strength. And when you do, something beautiful happens. You stop looking backward and start becoming someone you're proud of, not because of what you lost, but because of how you rose. Not because they said sorry, but because you said, I'm done. Closure, in the truest sense, is a declaration to the universe that you are no longer held hostage by what broke you. You are free, not because they freed you, but because you chose yourself. And that choice, though quiet and unseen, is one of the most powerful acts of healing you will ever make. Number 4, protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. It's the foundation of your clarity, the anchor of your soul, and the true measure of how deeply you've learned to love and respect yourself. In a world that constantly tries to pull you into chaos, comparison, drama, and noise, you must understand, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone has earned the right to sit with your energy, to know your thoughts, to affect your mood, or to shift your vibration. Your peace is not a public park. It's a sacred temple. And only those who approach with honor, honesty, and pure intentions should be allowed through its gates. Every time you allow disrespect to go unchecked, every time you entertain negativity, gossip, or toxic behavior, every time you overextend yourself to please others at the cost of your sanity, you trading pieces of your peace for temporary comfort or false connection. And that is far too high a price to pay. Protecting your peace means becoming radically intentional about what you allow in your space, who you let speak into your life, what you consume, what you respond to, and what you walk away from. It's about setting boundaries without guilt, saying no without explanation, detaching from conversations that drain you, and releasing relationships that no longer align with your growth. You don't have to explain your silence, your distance, your decision to unplug from what's loud but lifeless. Because anyone who genuinely values you will understand, and those who don't were never meant to stay. There comes a moment when you realize that your mental clarity, emotional balance, and spiritual alignment are not just nice ideas. They are non-negotiables. They are the difference between being reactive or reflective, between chaos or calm, between survival or expansion. When you protect your peace, you stop showing up to arguments just to prove a point. You stop answering messages that carry low vibrations. You stop justifying your boundaries to people who benefited from you not having any. Protecting your peace also means protecting your time. Because time is energy, and who or what you give it to shapes your reality. Be slow to invite, quick to observe, and fearless in retreating. Not everything deserves your reaction. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your transformation. And not all connections are meant to last. Some are simply assignments, sent to teach you how deeply you need to guard your peace next time. You don't need to respond to every challenge. You don't need to fix every misunderstanding. You don't need to explain yourself to people who are already committed to misunderstanding you. The more you grow, the quieter you become, not because you have less to say, but because you realize peace is louder than noise, stronger than validation, and more valuable than attention. When you protect your peace, you also protect your purpose. You keep your heart soft but guarded. You become available to joy, to focus, to real love, but unavailable to drama, distractions, and desperation. You learn to walk away, not because you're cold, but because you're clear on what you're building, what you're healing from, and what you refuse to carry anymore. And sometimes protecting your peace means being misunderstood, seen as distant or different, but you must let that be okay. You weren't born to be accessible to everyone. You were born to rise. And rising requires space. It requires silence. It requires alignment. It requires saying, "This is not for me," and walking away without guilt or second guessing. When you treat your peace as sacred, you become magnetic to things that match your worth. You create a life that flows instead of fights. You elevate from survival to sovereignty. You become untouchable, not because life stops testing you, but because you've stopped handing your power to things that no longer deserve it. Peace is your power, your compass, your superpower in a world addicted to reaction. So protect it, not just occasionally but daily, fiercely, unapologetically. Build routines that recharge you. Surround yourself with people who pour into you. Speak words that uplift you. Feed your mind with thoughts that inspire you, and walk away from anything that dims your light. Not everything is worth your energy. Not every battle is yours to fight. Sometimes the most powerful move is to simply let go and protect your peace, like your future depends on it, because it does. Number 5. Your response is your power. One of the greatest truths you'll ever embrace in your journey of healing, growth, and self-mastery. In a world where so many people are ruled by impulse, ego, and emotional reactivity, the ability to pause, observe, and choose how you respond instead of reacting blindly is a superpower that will elevate every part of your life. It's not about suppressing your emotions or pretending things don't affect you. It's about rising above the chaos, separating the moment from your identity, and reclaiming control over your energy and your narrative. When someone disrespects you, lies to you, betrays you, or tries to provoke you into a reaction, understand that your response is not for them, it's for you. It's your opportunity to show yourself that you are no longer controlled by your wounds, your past, or anyone's behavior. When you stay calm in the face of conflict, when you choose silence over screaming, when you walk away instead of fighting for attention, you're not being weak. You're being wise. You're saying, "I am no longer available for chaos." You're declaring that your peace, your growth, and your emotional maturity matter more than proving a point or being understood by someone who isn't capable of understanding you. Anyone can react. Anyone can lash out. That takes no discipline. But to respond with intention, to remain grounded when everything around you tries to pull you into drama, that's true power. And the most beautiful part, you get to choose it every single day. You get to choose how you show up, no matter how others act. You get to decide whether to respond with grace or fall into a pattern that no longer serves you. That's the kind of control they never teach you in school, but it's the kind that will set you free. The more you evolve, the more you'll notice that peace is not something you find. It's something you protect. And the way you respond to situations is the lock that keeps your peace safe. You'll stop trying to win arguments that don't matter. You'll stop chasing closure from people who benefit from your confusion. You'll stop reacting to every passive-aggressive comment, every manipulative tactic, every disrespectful tone, because you'll realize that not everything deserves your attention. You'll understand that silence can be louder than any scream, and indifference can speak volumes. When you stop reacting to every disturbance, you start reclaiming your emotional freedom. And this is when the shift happens. People notice. They can't shake you like they used to. They can't pull you into the old games. You've elevated. And that elevation makes you untouchable, not because life stops testing you, but because your response to it has changed. And that's the greatest flex. You're not cold. You're just in control. You're not distant. You're just discerning. You're not passive. You're just powerful enough to know that your energy is too expensive to waste on anything beneath your evolution. So next time something or someone tries to trigger you, pause. Breathe. Remember who you are. You're no longer that version of you who had to defend yourself, explain yourself, or react out of pain. You've healed. You've grown. And now you respond not to control others, but to honor yourself. Your response is your declaration to the universe that you choose peace, clarity, and forward momentum over chaos, confusion, and emotional traps. It's how you take back your power, not by dominating others, but by mastering yourself. And in that mastery, you find freedom. Freedom from old cycles. Freedom from emotional exhaustion. Freedom from giving your power away to people who never deserved it. Every time you choose to respond with intention, instead of reacting out of emotion, you align yourself with your higher self, your wiser self, your future self, the one who already knows that real power isn't loud, reactive, or impulsive. The one who already knows that real power isn't loud, reactive, or impulsive. It's calm, it's clear, it's consistent. And that kind of power, that kind of energy, it changes everything. So let your response be your strength, your shield, your statement. Let it show the world that you're no longer moved by noise, but led by purpose. Because once you master your response, you master your life. Number 6, distance is the language of healing, the unspoken yet profoundly powerful message you send when you decide to step back, not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of deep self-respect and an inner knowing that your soul needs space to breathe, to recalibrate, and to rise. When words become too loud, when the noise of conflict, confusion, or chaos threatens your peace, distance becomes your sanctuary, your medicine, your boundary wrapped in silence. It's not about abandoning others. It's about returning to yourself. It's about creating enough space between you and what hurt you so that clarity, perspective, and strength can be restored. Because healing doesn't happen in the same environment that broke you. Healing requires separation. From the triggers, from the expectations, from the toxic loops you kept replaying in hopes of a different ending. Distance is the quiet revolution of saying, I need to reclaim myself. And in that choice, you begin to pull your energy back from everyone and everything that misused, misunderstood, or misaligned with your growth. The truth is, sometimes you don't even realize how much someone or something is draining you until you walk away and feel the weight lift. In that sacred space of distance, you stop performing, stop proving, stop reacting. You just exist, breathe, and begin to remember who you were before the world tried to define you. Healing requires that stillness. It asks for room to process your pain without judgment, to sit with your emotions without distraction, and to rebuild your identity from the inside out, not based on someone else's version of you, but from your own truth. And that kind of healing isn't always pretty. It's not always linear, but it is real and it is necessary.